Anybody says anything back there, arrest them.
Go back away. I'm so sorry.
When people do really bad things, they might think they won't get caught. But when they do, and a life sentence is given,
They sentence you to life without the possibility of parole.
the harsh truth hits them. Convicts' reactions differ a lot. Some feel sorry, some accept it, while others deny or act strangely. Here are 3 cases where convicts had some of the wildest reactions to getting a life sentence.
You are a monster, and quite frankly, you are...
Disclaimer: all content in this video is for general educational purposes only.
Jaleel Smith Riley. This brings us to the first case of Jaleel Smith Riley, a guy involved in a shocking crime back in 2013. He and 2 others decided to rob a couple, Portia Brooks and Aaron Martin, while they were just sitting in their car. This crime happened in Norwood, on Carthage Avenue. The motive? Purely money. These guys didn't know the victims. It was what they call a crime of opportunity and a robbery gone wrong. On that night in November 2013, Smith Riley approached the parked car. He ordered Aaron Martin out, hoping to find something valuable. When Martin didn't have anything worth stealing, things took a terrifying turn. Smith Riley shot Martin in the head and then leaned into the car, shooting Portia Brooks, who tragically died 3 days later. The police struggled to solve this case for nearly 2 years until they got some tips that led them to Smith Riley and his accomplices in 2015. One of the suspects was already in jail somewhere else, and the other one had passed away. That's when Smith Riley was finally arrested in Cincinnati on October 15, 2015. During the trial, Riley surprised everyone. At first, he admitted to the crime and even agreed to plead guilty to avoid the death penalty. However, on the day of his sentencing in 2016, he shocked everyone again. He changed his plea to not guilty, claiming his lawyers forced him and that he had new evidence to prove his innocence. However, the judge, Barry Kubicki, wasn't buying it. He said Smith Riley made a clear-headed choice to plead guilty, and there was no evidence supporting his claims. The death penalty was off the table, but Smith Riley was sentenced to life in prison without parole.
Life without parole.
Plus, he got an extra 32 years for the attempted murder charge and the firearm specification. But when the judge dropped the life sentence bond,
Life without parole.
Smith Riley couldn't handle it. He collapsed in the courtroom, sobbing and screaming. The police had to pull him back up. And then, in a dramatic twist, he apologized to the victims' families.
Go back away. I'm so sorry.
Admitting he made a mistake and was sorry for everything. He even said he loved his family and asked for their forgiveness. But the victims' families weren't moved by his apology. Portia Brooks' family, who brought her ashes to court, said he deserved what he got. This is what Portia's mother had to say.
Because of his greed, his selfishness, his complete disregard of and disrespect of others and life. As you can see, I get nothing back except the reality that she is gone.
They'd been suffering for the past 2 years, and they believed he should suffer too. Aaron Martin, who survived the shooting, was glad justice was served. He hoped Smith Riley would find peace in prison. However, no one could say the same about the next case. Elis Nelson Ortiz-Nieves. In Michigan, a man faced a life sentence without parole after brutally abusing his girlfriend's 4-year-old son, resulting in the child's tragic death. This heart-wrenching case unfolded when Elis Nelson Ortiz-Nieves was found guilty of felony murder and first-degree child abuse. His criminal history included prior convictions for drug and gun charges, but this time, he was heading to federal prison for the horrific crime against the innocent child. The victim, Giovanni Mejias, suffered fatal injuries, including being crushed with bare hands. Ortiz-Nieves had a record of car theft, shoplifting, and assault with a weapon. The abuse came to light on June 13, 2017, when authorities responded to a call about Giovanni not responding. Paramedics rushed him to the hospital, where he was pronounced dead. During the trial, Ortiz-Nieves, emotional and upset, claimed innocence, denying any abuse. However, the medical examiner's testimony painted a different picture, describing Giovanni's injuries as remarkable signs of abuse by an adult. When the sentencing day arrived, the courtroom was charged with emotions. Kent County Circuit Court Judge Mark Trusock minced no words, labeling Ortiz-Nieves a monster and evil.
You are the lowest form of human life that I've been able to observe or see. You are a monster, and quite frankly, you are evil.
He sentenced him to life in prison without parole for felony murder, and an additional 80 to 150 years for first-degree child abuse. As the judge detailed Giovanni's injuries, Ortiz-Nieves couldn't handle it. He became visibly furious, expressing disagreement, and, at one point, had to be forcibly removed from the courtroom. Ortiz-Nieves, struggling with deputies, claimed he wouldn't allow the judge to say crazy about him.
No crazy about me, man. No, man, because he...
Despite the outburst, the judge's harsh words lingered in the courtroom. Trusock firmly stated that Ortiz-Nieves deserved to spend his life behind bars, emphasizing the sickening nature of the crime against an innocent child. This case serves as a chilling reminder of the heinous acts that can lead to life sentences. Ortiz-Nieves, facing the consequences of his actions, experienced a courtroom moment marked by emotional turmoil, denial, and the weight of a severe life sentence without parole. The same happened in the next case, where the convict found himself unable to cope with the reality of his life sentence during the hearing. Antonio Barbeau. This is the case of Antonio Barbeau, a young man, only 14 years old at the time in 2013, faced a life sentence without parole for the brutal murder of his great-grandmother, 78-year-old Barbara Olson. Alongside a friend, they bludgeoned Olson to death using a hammer and hatchet, with Barbeau allegedly using the stolen money to buy pizza and drugs. Antonio Barbeau, instead of starting his freshman year in high school, found himself in a courtroom showing a range of emotions. At times, he wiped tears from his face, but then there was a shocking moment, a smirk and a head shake when the prosecutor spoke. The prosecutor revealed that Barbeau, along with a friend, had mercilessly killed his great-grandmother, selling the murder weapons for a measly $150, which they used to buy pizza and pot. It was a heinous crime, leaving the community in shock. At the courtroom sentencing in 2013, Barbeau faced the consequences of his actions. He pleaded no contest to first-degree intentional homicide as part of a plea deal. The court sentenced him to life in prison with eligibility for parole in 36 years, meaning he could potentially be released at the age of 50. Barbeau, showing a range of emotions, cried multiple times during the 3-hour proceedings. Despite being eligible for parole on his 50th birthday, there's no assurance he'll ever be released. Instead of embarking on his high school journey, 14-year-old Barbeau is destined for prison. Emotions ran high in the courtroom. Barbeau tried to read an apologetic statement, but broke down sobbing.
I myself am not sure why, but that doesn't mean I don't.
His lawyer had to finish reading it for him.
I took away someone's mother, their grandma, sister, friend, when I had no right to do so.
Barbeau expressed regret, acknowledging that he had taken away someone's mother, grandmother, sister, and friend. The weight of his actions was undeniable, even if his emotions remained somewhat guarded. The psychiatrist testified that Barbeau had cognitive issues resulting from being hit by a car at the age of 10, possibly affecting his behavior. However, this did not diminish the severity of his crime. The judge, Timothy Van Ackeren, described the murder as nothing short of horrific, emphasizing that the sentence handed down was the minimum based on the nature of the crime. Barbeau was likely to serve his sentence at the Department of Corrections Lincoln Hills, a school for boys. It was situated north of Wausau in Wisconsin. Antonio Barbeau's case brings to light a shocking contrast between the age of the perpetrator and the gravity of the crime committed. While he grappled with the consequences of his actions, the courtroom witnessed a blend of emotions from a young man now destined to spend decades behind bars. As these convicts navigate their harrowing paths through the legal system, one thing is for certain: you'll eventually face your actions. Whether met with remorse or defiance, the consequences are inescapable. If you found this video interesting, don't forget to subscribe and let us know in the comments who we should discuss next.